Hey everybody, today I'll show you how to rebuild a rear brake master cylinder on a Husqvarna or GasGas dirt bike. So this is the Braktec master cylinder, which comes on the Husqvarna or GasGas Enduro models. Husky introduced them in 2022, and the KTM brand GasGases have always come with the Braktec hydraulics. So it's pretty easy to do, but there's one little trick to this where it's different than the Brembos that I'll show you in a little bit here. So first I wanted to real quick go over some of the symptoms of a bad master cylinder. So typically if you're struggling to build pressure in your brake pedal, or you might have pressure that when you push on the brake pedal there is pressure for a second and then it just goes to the floor. And you've tried bleeding it, you've tried making sure there's no air in it, chances are you have a blown seal in this. And it's pretty easy to fix. You need a rebuild kit, but other than that it's pretty straightforward. So the first thing that we'll obviously need to do is we need to remove this from the bike. It's really easy. The first thing you want to do is disconnect the banjo bolt on the brake line, which is up top here, and then just a couple bolts to remove this from the bike. I also removed the little brake pedal, but you really don't have to do that. It's one bolt. So it's all pretty easy to do. Just remove it from the bike, clean it up, make sure it's all clean so you don't get any additional dirt inside before you start working on it. So before you get too far into this project, you'll want to order some parts. You can't get any aftermarket rebuild kits for these Braktec master cylinders from what I could find, but KTM actually sells a factory rebuild kit, which is awesome. It's about $10 more than a typical all balls kit, so I paid about 50 bucks for this, but it comes with everything you need, which is kind of cool. And it's factory quality parts, made in Spain, so none of the cheap Chinese stuff. The seals are going to be good and everything. And you also want some brake fluid so you can replace the stuff that comes out. Again, this is a KTM part. It's Motorex, and funnily enough, this is actually $1 cheaper than just buying this Motorex fluid off the shelf if you buy it via the KTM part number. So who knew? Kind of cool. Same fluid, $1 cheaper, always a win. Alright, so the first thing we'll want to do here with this is we want to remove this little seal here. It just pops out. And then you see the plunger in here. So it's spring loaded. This is the thing that actually pumps the fluid. You can push it in and out. And in order to get this out, this is a little bit different than on the Brembos. On the Brembos, all you got to do is unscrew this, and it's kind of a long stick, and then it releases the actual plunger. On the Braktecs, there's a little retaining stick in there. So this just looks like this. I'll set that aside. And this took me a little while to figure out how this works. There's no videos or anything about it there anywhere. So you want to push down on a plunger a little bit just to relieve the tension, and then this piece, and then just shake it, and then this will just come out. You might have to shake it a little bit. You might have to like tap it lightly on something, and then this retaining thing will just come out of the hole in there. And once that happens, you can take the inside out, the actual plunger. And that's really pretty much all there is to the disassembly. You can obviously disassemble this the reservoir as well, just to make sure everything is clean. And really get it all cleaned up in there. You don't want to use any really harsh chemicals. So there's a plastic bit in here, so I don't know if you really want to go crazy spraying this with brake cleaner or anything, because you don't want to accidentally melt any of the plastic. But you do want to make sure there's no dirt or anything like that in here. Make sure the bore is smooth so you don't immediately blow the seal. In my case, and I actually already had this apart before I made this video, so I pulled the seal off. This is what I found. One of my seals was ripped, and that's why I couldn't build any brake pressure. All right, so we're moving on to the reassembly here. You can see that I've lubricated and just kind of cleaned this thing up a little bit. I used a little bit of the brake fluid just to rinse out any remaining stuff and make sure that there's no cleaning agent or anything remaining in there as well. So yeah, then it's really easy. You just put the new plunger back in. You need to make sure that it's oriented correctly. The hole here needs to be front and back so that the pin goes in as it should. And you can tell which way the hole is, but based by these grooves in the bottom of it. So yeah, just carefully stick that in there. It helps using a little bit of brake fluid just to make sure that it slides in there nicely. And then we want to grab the pin and put it into one of these holes here. We'll only go into one of the holes, so don't worry about which one it needs to go into. Alright, so that's dropped right in there, and now this is pretty much ready to go in here, and then I'll tighten it up, and it didn't have any Loctite on it. I don't think any is necessary because there's a copper washer on here. So you'll assemble this, and then I'll fill it with brake fluid on the bench. Just make sure it's full before I put it back on the bike. That just kind of helps move things along when it comes to bleeding. And yeah, then it's pretty straightforward. The rest of the process is the reverse of the disassembly. You just put this thing back onto the bike and bleed it to make sure you get all the air out of it. I have a whole bunch of brake fluid here, so I'm going to bleed the heck out of it, and also take the opportunity to bleed the front as well. So I hope you guys found this video useful. If you like this video, definitely please subscribe, thumbs up. And if you have any other questions or suggestions about Husky or GasGas maintenance work, definitely leave a comment. I'm always looking for some new ideas to make videos on.